Welcome to the PROCON podcast, hosted by Paul Vogels, with expert guest interviews, case study reviews, and insightful discussion topics. The PROCON podcast leads the project controls conversation.
So, welcome guys, back at the PROCON podcast. And today, I've all been telling you, it's about leading the project controls conversation. It's about use cases. It's about the educational part of project controls, which not everybody is aware of in the world yet. But thanks to the PROCON podcast, we're going to educate you as well. But one very important thing about project controls: people, processes, and tools. And today we have a software special with a very great duo, the dynamic duo, Marc Jaude, CEO of PMWeb, founder, still sitting president. We share some common sports. Golf, I've read in your bio, and you were an Olympic at the Taekwondo, which is very great, especially now in the Olympic season. I tried it for a couple of months, but it wasn't my thing. Golf is a better fit for the both of us, I think. Marc, you have a degree in civil engineering, started at UCLA, and then founded PMWeb in 2008. We're going to talk a little bit more on that because you actually studied civil engineering and now running a construction software company, which is great. And on the other screen I have, because we're live with Boston, so 7 or 8 hours time difference, Damon, studied at the, and I need to pronounce it well, Wesleyan University, worked more than 40 years in construction, from carpenting to project management to controlling and CFO. So you've seen the complete construction management life cycle, and now the product manager of PMWeb. Guys, thank you for being on the show, and welcome.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
You're more than welcome. Maybe a short introduction to PMWeb, construction management software company, running the biggest names in I think the construction, from an owner and from a contracting perspective. I can't read out the full name because we don't have enough time, but Apple, Disney, Carl Zeiss in Europe, Art Invest, Goldman Sachs, United Nations, a complete bunch of industries, owners, contractors. And Marc, first question to you. You started with the university, civil engineering, and then you worked at software vendors as well. And then in 2008, you started your own software company. Why was that?
Okay, as I studied civil engineering and started first as a project manager in construction. And then I started reselling to manage construction, because I found out that, these people, they know how to build, but they don't know necessarily how to manage. So I started reselling project management software, scheduling software, facility management software, like up to 10 different software, and reselling them and make them work together, integrate them together. And then came the idea of PMWeb. Why a client need to buy 10 different software if he can have one software that has them all? Everything will work seamlessly better and fully integrated. You don't have the double and triple entry into the software. So we created PMWeb in 2008, and we had few of the top name in the industry, and we went from there.
Yeah, but I can understand that with the civil engineering background and the project management background, the integration, that's where the force is. And I think PMWeb has all-in-one solution we want to create. But is there room for PMWeb? Because you've been competing with guys who run software for ages maybe, and is the advantage with creating a new all-in-one solution, was that the big unique selling point of PMWeb, where you don't have to integrate triple entry data, etc.? Is the common data environment the key differentiator at PMWeb in 2008?
It's one of them, but also we have specific features that none of our competitors still to this day don't have them. I.e. like multi-currency. Everybody have it by project, but we go down to the document level, purchase order level, or even line item level. So if you're dealing like with market like Europe or Middle East, the country are so close to each other. So you need to work even within the same purchase order or contract multi-currency. We have things like lunar calendar for the Middle East or China, so we have specific things that's more than just all-in-one, that specific feature like workflow. That's why we started, as we created a visual workflow. It to be up to that point, most software, they're like data entry, static data, it stay where it is. Now, when you enter data in PMWeb, it trigger a workflow, and based on it, it assign it to a second person, the third, and so forth. So before it used to be always have to human interaction. Okay, you send a contract or a change order, you send the first person, they return it to you, then you have to send it to the second one in sequence. So PMWeb, when it started, most of our competitors, there were two major project management software on the market, but none of them had the workflow. Nope. So PMWeb started, the whole principle was that owners, specifically our market, target mostly the owners. We have some contractor, but the owners needed workflow because that's how they go through the approval process, from project initiation to contract management to change order management.
Yeah, and maybe Ken, question to you, because we're looking at a big solution, an all-in-one solution. There's a zero footprint philosophy at PMWeb. We're talking 2008. Internet was not common practice as it's right now. I have 5G on my iPhone, and everywhere I look, it's internet connected. 2008, and I used to drive my scooter with floppy disks back then to install internet. With this big global vision, because I completely agree with you with these big names and big project and multi-currency, etc. There's a very strong vision on that. We want to run the world with PMWeb, multi-continental futures. How is that from a product management perspective? Because it's a big leap. It's a big step for mankind and a small step for man. But how is that from a product management perspective? Because you need to start with typing in code at the end. How is that from a product management perspective, Ken?
Well, you're right. When we began PMWeb, certainly online connectivity was not a thing, really, especially in the construction world, which has historically been pretty reluctant to adopt new features, new change, new technology. So it's interesting, though, because as Marc said, our consulting clients actually drove us to this. They were the ones that really, they needed an all-in-one solution. They needed something that was, in fact, connected, because the days of, a sneaker network were over. You could no longer afford. It was no longer a competitive choice to have this lag in terms of entering data and then retrieving data and then entering data and retrieving data. Instead, you needed to be connected to that data all the time. So what we did was we took the features that historically our clients wanted, put that in an online platform and in one shell, so that they, as I was saying, have access to that data literally 24 hours a day. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been a really great opportunity, and I think we happened into it at the exact right time.
Yeah, because if we fast forward to 2021, and I want to discuss the road to that, because there's a clear vision in 2008 with cost management knowledge in the company, with civil engineering, with real software vending experiences, integrity of data, connectivity of data is not common sense in 2008. This brought you to where we are right now at PMWeb, with the big names, Apples and Disneys of the world, who run a global company, APM Terminals, who's running 24/7 follow the sun principles. This is a great differentiator. And during this travel, did you need to adjust? Because I think a big advantage as well, which makes PMWeb unique, is the team who started it in 2008 is still on board, and it's still you're big enough to make an impact, and you're more than big enough to make an impact into the world, but you're small enough to change to, can you say that? The consultants drove us to, so you have a very strong voice in the field, I think. Can you tell me something, Ken, on did this affect your roadmap during 2008 to 21?
Most definitely, yeah. Throughout our history, our focus has been on what our clients needed from us. And it's interesting because clearly there are some technological tools available to us now that we couldn't have even envisioned when we started. And so what we've done is, I think our clients are telling us the features that they need, and they continue to do so all along. The more clients, the higher profile the client that we get, the more creative and more challenging ideas we get from them.
Yep.
But now we're able to sort of meld their wishes and make them come true, I think, in terms of finding the right technological tools that allow what they need to actually come true, to actually happen, to put it in their hands.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But also, I think, Mark, from an organizational, and you've led the sales team for years. We've been together on the stages where we need to demo and need to talk to the customers. You are still a lot of times a customer-facing profile. Also, from an organizational perspective, it's a mindset. We, as PMWeb, want to listen to the customer. Was that because every customer is unique? They think every project is unique. Is it hard for your organization to keep listening to these customers? What's the mindset you teach your sales reps and your consultants, etc.?
Yeah, we get like maybe a year over 1,000 feature requests. So we try to always prioritize them, and the way we prioritize them is by weighted factor. So people like I have been with me in the industry inside the company over 20 years, like Ken and Chris Wagner. So they have their opinion will matter way more. So what I call it before is like meritocracy, So we focus on those one opinion more than other. So also now our pool expanded. Our clients are best in the world in what they do. Like we have the top university in the world, one or two, top four actually, but we don't know which one number one is each year, but they're always it's been one of our clients the last few years. So they also, they're leaders in their industry. We get the best ideas from them, from the university or top banks, in the world. We have number one valuable company. Sometimes we cannot say specific company for promotion, but so those one also, they even help us, even they offer their resources to help us, and requested a certain feature to be added in the software. Initially, it was us, like in coming up with the idea, the few first version, but then became a client want those features to become better and like enhance them, the existing feature to be better and to suit them.
Yeah, I think with the field reps you have and the consultants spread out to the US and other continents, but also I think, and if I look at the website and I know from experience, you have this partner community who also talk to customers. You have a very strong vision on that you say, well, I don't want 10 competitors in one city. I'm striving for the best in region partners in Europe, in Australia, in the North USA, in the South Americas, etc. Does this help from an organizational point that you have a more directed funnel and not 100 partners in the street shouting, I am the most important one? Is that also something which you have been doing for 15 years, one partner strategy per region or per country, for example? Is that something you live to? Because you've been a partner for a lot of software companies.
We are a niche product, so it takes a client a lot to learn our product. to be able to implement it to our clients. So those partners, they do a huge investment to become knowledgeable on the product. We don't want to just dilute it. And also we want to compete with other products, not let the partner compete against each other.
Yep.
So that's where we want constructive competition against different products, but like the same spirit we have in our office, but we are one team and we compete outside company. And the partners with us is like extension of our team at the company. So, and also they add a lot of valuable from language, like we have in the Middle East, we have Dubai airport or the other, they need somebody local, they speak the language, work with them. We have in Europe, like the Primaned, and they're based in Amsterdam, speak multiple languages, they can service clients in the local language there, and they speak multiple language, French, German, and this. So they have local resources that people can provide service to a client better than us being in the US.
Yeah, and I know we are every month with consulting meetings where, well, competitors or partners, however you want to, and I really like the idea, we need to compete outside of the company and not inside the company. It's a differentiator, not the big 5 software vendors are saying, well, let's put all the partners in one room and discuss the challenge, or let's give our product manager a demonstration and let the partners give their input on it. It's based on trust, it's based on transparency, it's based on openness. What's the experience, maybe from a product management point of view? Did you learn, Ken, from different partners in different regions, because a project run in the Middle East or in Europe is maybe different managed than a US project?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. We've been really, really lucky with the partners, the relationships we developed with them. They bring a whole lot to the table. It's not just the idea of them selling PMWeb. It's more they represent us just as much as anybody in our local office does. And since we began, we've learned huge amounts from them. They've driven our development roadmap just as much as our clients have, both on behalf of their clients, but also just with what they bring to the table, their own experiences themselves.
Yeah. And does this form or mold your future roadmap? Are you able to crystallize the next steps in this roadmap? And I'm not going to ask what are the next functions and features you are going to put in, but does this give you a direction where PMWeb is going to? Because, you talked in many presentations about some innovations haven't been found out yet. So did this form the next couple of steps? Because you must have, and I know you have a roadmap for the next couple of years. Does this guide you in the direction?
Absolutely.
Yep.
It always has, and it always will.
Yep. Maybe back on this, how do I get the needs from the market? I've been to the user conference a couple of times. It's a fun time of the year if everything goes on this year. I think it's one of the best partner events I have ever seen. Customers, partners, maybe competitors from, because there's university number 1 and number 2, and they are still undecisive who is the best university this year and maybe next year, but they are sharing their experience. That's you three. You behave like that's a uniqueness and not a threat. How did this form in the organization? How with Chris and with Kyle, etc. From Chris is from the consulting team and Kyle is from the sales team and Scott is from the marketing team. How does PMWeb act on that? Giving all the partners in one room, all the customers, and I have seen people telling about their company. This is the challenge we had. This is how PMWeb solved it. That should give you a proud feeling, Mark, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what we have clients sometimes they come with some small features, and the other one is all related. They come from something else also that's related, but I can even make it better. So one client could have not thought about other ideas. So by us collecting them and come up with a solution for like a new feature they requested, so it become like things they never thought about they wanted till they saw it. When they see it, oh, that's exactly what I want. So it could be the idea came from us or partners or a client or different client. So it's all based on the best practices from everybody. So our job, sometimes we do like a vote. We give them the top feature people are asking, and then like they can vote on the priority of it. Because they're always like, no matter what, you have limited resources. You cannot have it all. We cannot just do 1,000 features every year that they ask. But that's the way we prioritize it. And also, it's not just individual feature, it's how it works all together. Because like I say, it's a new function that has about 15 features that are all related to it. So each one could be done from different client to make it this one feature or partner. And partner for us are very important because they also they're representing 50 clients. So they're not just narrow, they're looking at it from one perspective. So that's why we said the weighted average. Yeah. So a partner, because representing 50 clients, has more say and to represent his own client because he's presenting 50 people on prioritizing those features or the next version on our roadmap.
Yeah. So he gets 50 votes. Sort of. Well, I think this user conference, and I'm going to make a little bit of advertisement for it. It's beginning November this year, again in the Miami region, Sunny Isles. You just opened up a new office in Miami from the expansion. So you're both in the Boston office, and you have a Miami office. You also have a lot of people working from remote places, from customer places, from home offices, etc. This makes you also a multi-country organization. Aren't these features and opinions sometimes conflicting? Ken? Because in the US it's more hierarchical project management, and maybe I always say the same joke, in Holland we have this saying, it's called polderen. We keep discussing until everybody is happy. Also in projects, well, that's hard to program probably in PMWeb software, but sometimes features or functions can be counterproductive against each other.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and that's where as Marc was saying, we have to take in a whole lot of ideas in the funnel and then decide not only what's going to make most of our client base happy, but sort of in an existential way, what fits the PMWeb vision the best. And so far, I think balancing those things has really paid off. It's led us not to go down dead-end roads, which I think you can see with lots of other software applications, not just in the construction world, but they may follow every new trend or every new possibility. And what they're really doing is wasting time and effort. I think our clients have kept us focused in the right direction, and we've been pretty fortunate that way.
Yeah, and when we add features, we PMWeb is highly customizable. So if you want one company want one-off feature, they can customize it their own, or will help them do it too. But usually we try not to add a feature that doesn't benefit everyone. So we don't want to bastardize the software and be locked in each client with different version. Yep. So all clients actually have same version of PMWeb. We have people who use QuickBooks, and as their accounting will link to it, and all the way to Oracle and SAP. We also link to those high-end software. And two different clients. So their client was hundreds of thousands of employees, and client was small client. I won't say mom and pop because PMWeb is more for commercial client. So but they say they use the same PMWeb. It's not a different PMWeb, and it allows us to keep upgrade them without getting stuck in one version. So that's why the client want an off feature. We can help him create it or customize it, but we don't want to like have so many different versions of PMWeb. And what you were saying about how people request in the US versus Europe, yeah, when we work with European companies, each one, even the same company, do their own or use different software sometimes. Yep. Where you work with American company, they use one software and they make it the standard across all the US, not even across all the US, across the whole world. Like I work with Tishman Speyer, usually not say too many names, but Tishman Speyer, I work with them in New York. When we went in Europe, each one want to do it differently, but at the end, we took all their opinion and customized the software to do it suitable for all of them, but they still one standard across all the world. And the European liked it so much. You say, oh, before we used to work each differently. No, we want that one standard. If somebody leaves, somebody get hit by a bus, or better, the lottery, doesn't show up to work, another project manager come take over, everything standardized, everything looks the same. So we find big difference between a European company and American company.
Yep, I totally can relate to that. That's the process. If we're talking about people, processes, and tool, the uniformation of process is very important. And I also think, because it's a good point you hit, is having a uniform tool. There's only one version of the truth. There's a common data environment. Web-based solutions make it easier to upgrade to the front user, at least. On the back end, there's a lot of software and services running. But with this flexibility you have, with the configuration part, with also the ways of deploying, because you can deploy it on-premise, at their own premises, in your own data center, which you run globally, or as a SaaS solution. So that's the best of the worlds you need, because a bank has different security issues than a project-related construction management company. This gives you the right ingredient to cook this, but it's the people are very important. How do you streamline this? And also with the growth. So that's a very strong point you mentioned, Marc. Was it then hard when Corona hit? Well, the whole world, people working more from home, working more isolated, or was the vision on everything doing online in one solution also have positively backfire to your people? Or how did you cope with the coronaviruses, and how did your customers cope with that?
Yeah, so PMWeb is collaborative, and by this happening, so it allows people to work from home or different places. Already, like PMWeb can be used from around the world, even with one connect, like different connection all the way to our server. In New York or the cloud. Like we were talking about 2008, that everybody was talking about the cloud computing. Yep. Now everything is almost in the cloud. So we still allow the client to use on-premises, especially international. There's some people like that. But in here, majority of our client, 90% are everything in the cloud. Now, last year, client, when this happened, they find, they can rely on PMWeb now because everything is centralized, but they can connect from anywhere. And it was actually our business even multiplied, because increased tremendously, because the demand, especially on existing client, then they deployed it much more. Now, I still feel like Corona eventually going to affect business, because I feel to get them started, they need to know you, trust you, see you in person, because most of our clients are enterprise and larger clients. But within organization, same organization already know PMWeb, already bought into PMWeb, things expand tremendously last year.
Yeah. Yeah, you have in most companies you have ambassadors. So you have PMWeb enthusiasts. I think everybody at the user conference is a PMWeb enthusiast, is an ambassador. You should all hire them as sales rep, because they are selling PMWeb internally, from the US to Europe, or from Europe to the Middle East, etc., etc. I can understand. So the collaborative part of PMWeb, everybody can work from their kitchen table remotely in the web organizations. But PMWeb is really focused on assets. When the whole corona pandemic is over, and let's hope it's over soon, also the asset industry is going to reinvent themselves, because not everybody is working 5 days at the week at the office. So the asset needs from offices, fabrication sites, etc., will increase. So you multiply it by corona, but afterwards there will be a bigger need to this. Makes me want to go to the bridge where you say in the beginning is we are focusing on owners, because they need to spend the money. They need to, dictate is not the right word, but they need to prescribe the way their company is going to be built. But on the other hand, I see more and more contractors following that. And I think, Marc, you said you don't know what you don't know, what you haven't seen before. And the first time you see it is, hey, this is what I want. And at the customers I hear talking at the user conference, for example, or at the customer meetings we do, is if a consultant is working for an owner who has PMWeb, in his next project, he will advise his own company or the owner. How does this relate to the referral business, for example, or to getting all these contractors on board as well? Maybe Ken, from a product perspective, does a contractor have really other needs than an owner? That's been interesting too.
What we've found is, because we initially targeted owners, they were very enthusiastic about coming on board with PMWeb. And they saw it, as Marc said, as a chance to formalize their systems, and then coerce is kind of a strong word, but they could prescribe participation in their projects, also including participating in PMWeb. So they supplied the platform. They purchased the licenses of PMWeb. They supplied the database, and anyone that wanted to participate in that owner's project, as part of doing that, was also participating in PMWeb. And as you said, it's sort of it grows exponentially then, because those contractors, whether they're general contractors or specialty contract trades, when they come on board, they see something in PMWeb that's missing in their own organization. They then either advocate for it from the owner's perspective on the next project, or they adopt it themselves and use it on all their own projects. So it's a pretty cool process, something we don't even have to drive. It's just them seeing it for themselves. Yep.
But it also becomes, and I'm going to look into the future, a lot of contractors are coming on board. Project controls is evolving. In Europe, it's not as mature as in the US, for example. If you look at the PMI indexes, USA is much more mature than the European continent, for example, on project maturity level. This gives a better or more need for better insight. You need to look at the analytical part of project data. How does your solution anticipate for that? Because once all the data is in the solution, it's a common data environment, I want to see it. How can we look into the database and not on a tech, because the top managers are not Excel enthusiasts, but they need to see traffic lights, for example. How does your solution anticipate to that in the near future, or maybe already right now?
So one thing about, I'll let Ken talk about feature specific, but one thing, the owner themselves, when they buy the software, they don't want to turn their employee into data entry clerks and doing the double entry. They typically hire a general contractor, and he hired a subcontractor and the manage. So by allowing they typically require the contractor to use the software at the same time, so they do at least the entry for them, so they don't have to double enter the data. Yep. Into PMWeb. So now, based on security, owners still have to do the hard costs coming from the contractor, but the soft costs like paying the consultant, the architect, and the owner that they deal with. They can enter it themselves, but PMWeb is very robust security, and it goes down to the field level. So the contractor won't see the owner higher level of data, of approving higher budget. They only see it when the pending change order or pending requisition or invoices, they see what they need to see without seeing also other contractor on the same project. So that's where it comes PMWeb robust security. And it allows this collaboration to work all on the same product.
Yep. And overarching, so there are different contractors in one system working on different types of projects. Question to Ken, is it then very hard to open up the data to the owner well, BI is a very hype at the moment, business intelligence, maybe even artificial intelligence in a couple of years. We first have to see that. Are you anticipating on these kind of technologies like BI, AI, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. BI, business intelligence reporting, has always been a key feature of PMWeb. Unlike some other systems in the market, we don't lock you into certain limited reporting options. Instead, we initially, right from the beginning, adopted Microsoft BI for the reason that not only can we write virtually any report based using it, but quite often our clients already own Microsoft BI and are able to develop their own reports as well. The key feature, as you mentioned earlier, is that all your data in PMWeb is in a single database. Yep. So it makes reporting really quick, really easy, really powerful. We have clients who drive their entire project no longer from the data collection aspect, which it used to be when you had paper-based systems or even early computer systems, but now because the digital information is right at their fingertips, that actually drives the project forward. There's a much faster turnaround. All this, interestingly, is sort of mimicked with the developments in the software development industry, agile development, which I think is actually driving now improvements in construction management in terms of just-in-time delivery, design build concepts, much greater reliance on advanced features like that are actually making the projects move forward much faster. So you're doing a combination of planning, execution, and operation all at the same time, which is something that PMWeb was designed to do.
Yeah. You tip maybe another hype, I think, in the construction industry, lean, agile. Is PMWeb anticipating on this trend of being, well, less hierarchically project managed, but more, well, let's call it agile or lean, whatever. I think it's a bunch of names for the same lean principle. Is this something which is introduced already in the latest version or in the upcoming versions?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, our latest version 7.1, features a brand new tool. It's called activity boards. You might be familiar with the concept of Kanban boards, which was initially used for the auto industry to improve their processes. And it's been adopted by virtually every software development project around the world since then. And it's moving into other industries as well, including now construction. So we developed a tool inside PMWeb called an activity board, which allows for a less hierarchical, a more interactive, collaborative, less formal way of designating what work needs to be done, assigning it to folks, and then monitoring its completion all on a single screen. It's all very intuitive, easy to use, quick, real time at all times, and accessible from anywhere in the world because it's right within PMWeb. So yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and you're following this, and you hear this from your partners, from your customers, etc. And you, because of the lean and mean development strategy, you can steer your ship. You're not the big oil tanker, but you're the fast moving. And I know this is a thing Marc likes. It's a big speedboat who can go very fast, very quickly, and be very agile in moving from left to right. Okay, thank you very much for this insight, Ken. Next steps in the development of PMWeb. Are there new areas where we come in? And I don't want to force you in talking about roadmap, which you don't want to talk about. But are you optimizing and further developing the customer requirements, or do you see other needs coming more into constructive with pandemic, collaborative work, BI, etc.? Is there anything which changed in the roadmap the last 2 years, for example, with the roadmap?
I would say generally, one of the things we realized, PMWeb, for our first 12 years, whatever, we were primarily focused on building from the ground up. You can think of it literally that way. We had an empty job site. We started building. Yep. We built a very powerful, very complete, successful building. One of the things we realized along the way is not only are our clients valuable in terms of giving us their input on new features, but also probably even more important, they're the best critics of our system, and I mean that in the most positive way. They're the ones that can help us most improve what we already do. So one of the things we did deliberately in the roadmap a few years ago was decide to not only continue to add new stuff to PMWeb, but also to follow those client suggestions in terms of improving what we already do, trying to make it even better. So we've certainly done that, but we also have some really big ideas coming along in the roadmap in terms of new features. And a lot of it, I think, is driven by what I was talking about before. The construction industry itself is changing. It has to change. Yep. It can no longer operate economically the way it used to, sort of this big monolithic thing. Instead, it has to interact with all the other spheres of industry. Yes. And so we're going to be adapting PMWeb to meet those needs too in the coming years.
Yeah, and Paul, feature like this, if our direct competitors, none of them have them built in. They try to integrate to a different software or do stuff like this, but you have the double entry as not as seamless. So we feel we also integrate to other software when it's needed, like i.e. accounting. So, but we don't feel anything that has to relate to project management should be inside our software, not an outside tool. Mm-hmm. That's why this tool came along, and we're probably the only one have it built in our software. So this is another thing that make us competitive advantage over other product, that everything is in our software as it relates to project management.
Yeah. I think, guys, we can talk for this for ages. I think, Ken, if you want to see the real roadmap, it's an open invitation to all customers to be in Miami in the beginning of November at the user conference. If you are not a customer yet, well, please call your account manager, because you then open up an opportunity to meet all the peers from the industry, because I really believe that over industry you can learn from other customers, competitors, partners, whatever you want to call them. So I think an open invitation to everybody to join the user conference, but also an open invitation to subscribe to the PROCON podcast, because I think with these stories of a software vendor and a use case, and we might even try to have a PMWeb project on the PROCON podcast in the near future, where we can learn from each other. Not just on the beach with a cocktail, with a smoking martini, but also listening to the Apple podcast or YouTube or whatever medium you're using. It's an open invitation to join and lead the Project Controls invitation. For now, I'm going to wrap this up. Ken Damon, Product Manager, PMWeb, thank you very much. Marc Jaude, CEO, PMWeb, thank you very much for being on the show. And to everybody, please subscribe to proconpodcast.com. Look into the Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you use. Listen to the latest podcast. We've published a couple of them, but there will be also in the near future. And if you have some spare time in November, please look at PMWeb.com and click on the 2021 user conference, because it's really fun, but you really can learn a lot about project controls, about the construction industry. Guys, thank you very much. Listeners, thank you very much, and talk to you the next time very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the PROCON podcast. To listen and watch more episodes, you can subscribe and access the resources mentioned in this episode by visiting proconpodcast.com. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode, where we will continue to lead the project controls conversation. The PROCON podcast and the associated resources is published under copyright to Primaned. All rights reserved, no reproduction of this content is permitted.